Hi, Misha here, and it's time to talk Swiss SIGs again, especially since another batch is supposedly coming in spring of 2024. And really, I just wanted to shoot one of mine again and let Jero shoot one for the first time. And I picked this one because for the past 6 months or so, everyone's been asking about the SG553 SB. So we'll shoot this, get Jero's take, talk about the guns, talk about what's coming in, talk about some accessories, just basically hang out and talk Swiss guns because we haven't done it in a minute and that just feels wrong. So as always, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. Check out Patreon to help out because YouTube situation. Even when I say this is not a sponsored video, these guns aren't T&Es, I don't think they believe me. So yeah, that would be great. Any help, any support, any help you can do, that's awesome. With that, let's stab on in. Standard mag with this things, and see how it goes. Assuming I actually have the gas regulator in the right position. Alrighty, 553 SB. Well, I think we answered that question about the regulator. Been shooting this for 10 years and I still do that. This is the 4-way regulator, and what throws me off, the top here is smooth. But this is the suppressor side. It's either suppressor or off. And you press this in to flip it over to the other side, which is standard or adverse. And what throws me off is this side is the scalloped side. So it would seem like to me this would be whatever. Okay, it's in the right position now, I hope. You know what's nice about this gun? It has built-in tinnitus. Goes to show you guys, you can never have a gun too long not to make honest little oopsies. But no, it's very reliable, at least if you're doing your part. This is the standard mag. The 30s were introduced in the 90s for standard, a little better capacity, especially for export. Originally, this was the Swiss mag 20s, because they're marksmen, not rapid shooters. Most all of your 20s do have the studs, but there have been a few tiny runs without it. Mostly if you get the type, I thought I grabbed one without the studs. Oh well, I grabbed 2 studs. You get the idea, they lock together. Jungle style. There we go. Could have actually done it at the right angle, but you get the idea. But they do have a studless version of the 30 that's kind of started to come into use, especially with Swiss Special Forces, and especially with this 553. And of course, mine's modified a wee bit. For one, this upper actually came in, is just a conversion kit. So that's why the serial on the lower doesn't match. This lower is actually off my 553 LB. But with these guns, your upper here is your registered part. So this is not registered since it's a part upper. That's why I have this on. This is the brace I made a long time ago. I actually took one of the adjustable stocks, took the stock part off, put a brace on. Fits well, honestly. Has the folding latch. The lock's of course open. For the closed position, it doesn't really lock, especially when that mag's in the way, but it's just for storage. That's what I did, but later these have become available from JDI. They also fit the hinge going right in, and I'll let any standard brace tube, AR tube go in. This is a Swiss part, not US, and they actually were made for military contracts because there were some users, export users, that wanted to put AR-15 M4 stocks on their guns. but it just happens to also work great as a factory brace adapter. And they do technically have two versions, one designed for the classic stamped receiver like this, and one for the slightly newer aluminum alloy receiver because it's a little bit skinnier. Again, this is the classic look. But before I ramble on, let's put a few more rounds through it. 553 SB. Now this does have the tinnitus 3-prong. This is the newer style. Originally you had the kind of skinnier forked type. Traditionally this had 14x1 left-hand threads. Newer guns usually have 1/2x28 right-hand. Changes over time. This has the folding front diopter sight. Newer ones, they still do sell the diopter sets, but they just give you a replacement front blade for the folding blade sight now. They've been doing that for a few years. And then you have this clamp-on rear adapter. I'm mentioning this because a few customers haven't realized that they still do make these. What's kind of interesting is this is a very low profile. This is why your lock is up here and your sight's back here. The Swiss wanted low profile on their iron sights from the get-go so that sitting over a barricade in a mountain, you weren't presenting a nice juicy head target for any invader. And when you went to the pick rail, they did their best to keep this low. So it is definitely lower than like a Magpul would be, but it's still higher. That's why you need a slightly taller front sight. A standard fixed front sight will fit, but I don't know how well it will line up. And this also has the bolt-on rail sections. This is a standard handguard. They actually make 5.53 handguards by cutting down 5.50 handguards. Kind of cool. Ventilating them. But yeah, these anchor on with screws. I have not seen these rail sections in a while. Most of the military guns these days actually have the quad rail set up. But officially these are still in production, even if they haven't been imported in a bit. And kind of the same goes with these irons. The reason JDI hasn't sold these irons in a while, cost is just crazy. These were always expensive iron sights. I remember getting my first set of Swiss clamp-on irons from Colorado Gun Sales in 2011. Back then, they were like $450, $500. Now, you're looking at $750 for the set, front and back. They do come in a cool little case, I'll give it that. It looks like a baby rifle case. But that's Swiss. I mean, it's all expensive. Oh well. Very expensive AK. With a somewhat controversial trigger. And with that, let's hand that off to J-Ro and see what he thinks.
Held open. I like it.
Any couple of thoughts?
Honestly, a lot less felt recoil than I expected there to be. I mean, some of that is due to the weight, but
yeah, it's not light.
No. But no, overall, I found it a really comfortable shoot. In fact, like I said, the felt recoil was so low that I was kind of braced to take a little bit more of a hit. And no, comfortable, ran smooth. I like the sight picture on the flip up and the little adjustable rear here. Yeah, it's cool.
Well, what about this? What do you think of the trigger?
It was a little wonky. It felt like a really long trigger pull. It's like there's a definite wall there, and then it's kind of spongy. But yeah, there were a couple of times I expected the pull to go straight through, and I met a little bit of resistance right here where that wall is. And so it goes from like a light trigger pull to a heavy trigger pull, more than a wall and a break. So you kind of have to be ready for it to get a little tight towards the end of the pull. Now, I mean, I can see how You know, I'll have to run a mag through it later, doing some more precision shooting, but I can kind of see how going to the wall and then pulling through it could feel pretty nice on this.
Okay.
You know, I was pretty much just running it straight through, but yeah, no, I can see how taking up the slack and then pushing through that would have kind of a nice feel to it.
Yeah, and I think the idea is it's a very large trigger shoe, and the idea is it's Switzerland, so you're probably going to be wearing gloves or even mittens, so you need kind of a large trigger, also one you're not going to accidentally pull
Right.
if your fingers are cold. All right, we'll keep. A quick aside, yes, we will get to the current Swiss import news, what's coming in, when it's coming in. Not going to talk prices because that's kind of not really even doable until shipping and the conversion rate's known. But let's keep hanging out with J-Ro, keep shooting a little bit, talking there. We will get to that point, though. I promise. It'll just be a little later in the video. Hey, continue to compliment the Rock and Lock. So yeah, J-Ro's going to try a little more slow fire.
Let's say, you know, make a note of it because it don't happen much.
It only took a Swiss gun to do it.
Honestly, this one goes in just fine.
Yeah.
Yep, there's that real long, slow, like I expected it to go bang when I pulled it that time and I hit the wall instead. You really feel that one when it locks back too.
Yeah, it's...
Like there was no mystery as to like, am I done yet?
But it's not like it jars you. It's just like, because you don't have that forward motion, you just notice that it's like the cycle's interrupted. Like he was saying, when it's empty, you notice it because it doesn't really have much rear travel. It stops right there. And it's not unpleasant, not at all, but you notice it. And one reason it's so noticeable is, you know, with an AK, even an AR, your recoil spring is behind. But on these, it's up here. It's part of your gas. It's funny that the recoil spring guide is also your gas piston. This here. So it does kind of give it a different feel. And that's kind of the thing about this. It is a different feeling gun, and that does turn some people off. It's not so much a love it or hate it gun. Most people I know that spend time with these do end up liking them. It's a matter of spending time with them, and it just takes time because it is its own thing. Switzerland has always done its own thing in a good way, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, making a more deliberate, you know, taking a little extra time to really decide what I make of that trigger, it really does have like a lot of take up before you get to the wall. Like I said, that first shot, I expected it to go right through. And it's got a little more resistance than you might expect. It feels a little weird trying to go quickly with it, but I will say that when it comes to going to the wall with it and then breaking it, that feels real nice. Like for precision shooting stuff, that trigger feels great. When it comes to just wanting to rock and roll with it, this isn't the trigger for you.
Yeah, not a fast trigger, not like an ALG or something.
It really isn't a fast trigger, but it has a very nice clean break.
So yeah, I'm used to it. I do see what he's saying. And I will say, when we started recording this video, when I just laid this on the table, he said, I like that gun. So I think even with just a few rounds fired, we're starting to kind of win him over. And this is the little one. So, yeah. And this is really people have been asking about. It's kind of funny with these. They don't import the entire line because the way Switzerland works, it's not a tiny factory. It's the same new housing factory they've been building guns at since the 19th century. Actually, they started off building wagons. In fact, some of the old tooling from the late 19th century is still in the basement there, which is awesome. That's also how we ended up with those 5.52s. They were just some parts kits in the basement, and that's what Dave convinced them to build. A couple of years ago, that's what everyone wanted, the 5.52, because it's in a lot of video games, and it does have a certain mystique. But the 5.53 really is just a better 5.52. In every way that matters, it's a better gun. It uses essentially the same bolt carrier group as a standard 5.50, 5.51, whereas the 5.52 is special. And the 5.52 had some weird issues with the recoil, guide rod, and things. It was a good gun for the 90s, but with new technology, around 2007, they were able to introduce the 5.53s, an improved version. It hit the market around 2008, and they even offered an upgrade kit, because externally, the only difference is the charging handle. This is a standard one. The 5.52 has kind of the post style, but everything else is internal difference, mostly to do with the new gas piston, recoil, and bolt group. And they did sell quite a few kits to the military. That's why in the military, it was initially known as the STG-W04 for the 5.52. The 5.53 became known as STG-W07, and upgraded guns were known as the STG-W0407. But yeah, this is what everyone's been asking for, and unfortunately, we have not had a batch come in, either conversion kits like this one or 5.53 SBs in quite a while. We've had 5.50s a couple years ago, small batch of 5.52s, yes, but we had quite a large batch of 5.51s. And now I guess this is the itch that wanted to be scratched. We even had some 5.53 LBs come in. Sorry, wind. But yeah, the good news is, as always, they're a little late. They were supposed to be here in March. Now it's already April. But I just talked to JDI because I've got some on order too, and they are still due in. So let's talk about that. All right, as promised, we're going to talk about what's coming in from SAN Imports, JDI, Dave down there in Texas this spring. Of course, I don't have any of them because they're not here yet. Some of them aren't even built at the factory yet. So we'll do our best for using my guns. And believe it or not, no, I don't keep every Swiss gun that comes in. Actually, very far from it. I just keep my 3 or 4 favorites. So, since we've been talking about the 5.53, let's just keep on with that first. Both 5.53 SB and 5.53 LB models are coming in. Typically, LB has a 13.6, 13.7 inch barrel, and SBs have an 8.9. Now, SBs almost always have a removable muzzle device, either on 14x1 left hand or more recently 1/2x28 right hand threads. These are what SIG calls a 2-piece barrel. I don't know which thread pitch they're coming. I did ask Dave, he doesn't know either. But if you made me guess, I would say 1/2x28. This one's actually 14, but the current trend seems to be 1/2x28. When it comes to the LBs, while SIG in the past has offered 2-piece barrels, which basically are 11.9 inch plus a removable muzzle device, this time, unless something changes, they're all going to be single piece like this one. So no removable device, although they will have internal threads for a blank device. I will point out that just now I heard that Troy S has made an adapter that's in the US that actually clamps on to this style flash hider and uses the internal threads to also screw on, and it adapts this to give you 1/2x28 threads. Because a lot of people have wanted to do a suppressor, on a gun like this, you really can't. Not easily. A gun like this, easily. 4-way regulator, too. That's another thing Dave said, that these are supposed to come with the 4-way regulator. Hopefully they will. They are supposed to be with the green furniture, gray metal, and steel lower. Somewhat unique for this batch. As I said, kind of each batch can be different. We're going to get not only the welded pick rail, which will be a little shorter, we will have welded diopters. So it'll actually look quite similar to my gun here, but it'll be a little bit shorter because it's not a clamp-on. So you'll get both, and that should be for both SB and LB. By the way, here's that original, blade front sight on the LB here for what it's worth. And as far as I know, these will all have the plastic handguard without rails. This is the modern quad rail. Yeah, so that's what's coming in for the 5.53. Goes without saying, chambered for 5.56, and I believe both will have a 1 in 7 twist, although that could be subject to change. Those are the kind of little details that SIG sometimes changes at the last minute. These, of course, will be pistols. If you want to put on a stock, you would need to file for an SBR, or you can do a brace. Next up, SG 5.51s. Now, I mentioned we had a quite large batch, about 400 pieces in total, even though 50 or so were limited editions. They had the 1980s style 16.1 inch barrel. Cool, but these are going to be coming in with the military length barrels. This was originally created as a, quote, headquarters carbine with a 14.3 inch single piece barrel. And then in the 90s, they introduced the LB, like this one, with a 17.8. And folks have been kind of wanting the military length barrels, and both will be coming in 14.3 5.51 SB and 17.8 5.51 LB. Now, where this one's black, they will be gray metal with steel lower and green handguards. So a very traditional look. They too will have the diopter sights and welded pick rail. So the diopters are going to look pretty much like these. But instead of just flat up here for the old style mount, there's a short and low rail stretching on top. So that's how we're going to see those. And interestingly, they are going to have the 4-way gas regulator, which is pretty uncommon for a 5.51. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen a 5.51 LB with a 4-way gas regulator. Now, they will still have the single-piece barrel, 5.51 SB or 5.51 LB, so your suppressor options are limited to either chopping it off, which I don't recommend, and rethreading the barrel, or maybe using an adapter like I mentioned that S is making. Full disclosure, I haven't picked one of those up yet, so I can't personally testify that they work, although I can say that Troy did a good job making those AR-70-90 receivers. Final thing to note, both the 5.51 SB and 5.51 LB are going to have a 1 in 10 twist, not 1 in 7. But don't worry, I've shot 62 grain through 1 in 10s quite frequently. They work fine. Next, we will see another batch of SG 7.51s, the Sapper, Swiss Arms Precision, rifle, not rifle. This was a little bit in doubt because the mags. It was looking like magazine prices were really going to go up on these. And while they have slightly, I will say that Dave went to bat, essentially saying if the mags increase that much, I can't order more guns because I can't sell mags to my customers for that. So a deal was struck, and so another batch of 7.51s will be coming in. And this is mine. It's the quote-unquote SOCOM version you guys know. The ones coming in will be essentially your basic version. They will have the 16-inch barrel, standard flash hider instead of the brake, and they'll have the standard plastic handguard instead of the quad rail. I think they'll have the 4-way gas regulator instead of the 2. And I do know they'll be in black. And of course, with the 7.51, they've never made a steel lower version. These are all alloy lower. It's fine. So it'll be a black version, 16-inch barrel. And you can kit it out, frankly, however you like. So, those are the major batches coming in. But when? Initially, the ETA was March, but I've been doing this long enough, Dave has too. We knew that Switzerland would not meet that deadline. To be fair, guys, at least 99% of the time, when these are later coming in, that's overseas things, either at the factory or just export-import stuff. It's not Dave. But the first to come in, because they're already pretty much done making them, will be the 551s, the LBs, and the SBs. That's actually the reason for the switch in twist rate. Originally, they were ordered in 1 and 7. A couple weeks back, the factory contacted Dave and said if we're going to tool up to do the 1 and 7 551s, it's going to delay it by months. And when SIG says months, they mean probably a year. Or you can accept 1 and 10, because that's what they're making right now, and we'll have them put together in a few weeks. So he did that. So the first ones we're going to see are the 551s. Dave says he's hoping by the end of April, so that means maybe the early part of May, we should see these hitting the market. Then at the end of May, so maybe the beginning of June, hitting the market, the 553s, SBs, and LBs. They are just now starting to make these. They haven't finished the run over there, so they're after the 551s. So look for there to be a month separation for the 553s. And finally, the 751s, even though they are saying they should ship around the same time as the 553s, I wouldn't be shocked if they got delayed a little bit, but I would love to be incorrect and wrong. So end of May, June for the 751s. These are all just estimates. Nothing's set in stone. That's just how the gun world works. I can also report that a batch of magazines, not just the 550, 551, 553 mags, but more 751 mags are on order, and they should be here in May. There will be a few other parts and accessories coming in that batch too. So that's good news. But there's some bad news. Dave puts his stuff up for pre-order, and he allows back orders on his website. The issue is he almost always has more pre-orders and back orders for things than he does coming in. Now with guns, he lets everyone know, hey, I had 25 of this model, 30 of that model, 10 of this model come in, they're sold. But with accessories, he doesn't ever know exactly how many mags he's going to get till they come in. And back orders usually gobble up all the mags. So even if 500 mags come in May, which would be a large order for Switzerland, he may have 600 or 700 back orders. So even with this stuff coming in, it may not be available on the website. It may be, you never know. But I'm just saying, don't be too shocked if they go to the people who pre-ordered months ago. And the same thing goes for the guns. They've announced 551s, 553s. They were going out for pre-order, but back in January, December, and they're all done. So even though the guns are coming in, that's cool. This isn't really a sales pitch because the guns are already sold. This is just more information. And I'm sure you will see some of these on Gunbroker, local trade forums. But as far as what Dave has, you can call him, but he won't have anything to sell because he's already sold. And when he does that, he takes deposits. It's not one of those things where he just takes people at their word that they're going to buy. You need some kind of money down, and I don't blame him for that at all. So I wanted to make that announcement, but I also just wanted to keep a record of what's coming in for spring of 2024. And you'll notice there are no 550s, PE90s. If you go back on the channel, you'll see there was a batch of gray-green 550s. There were those black with silver metal, and there were the all-black Schwartz ones. That was last year, and so that's kind of that cyclical thing I was talking about. Right now they're doing 551s, 553s. They haven't done 550s in a while. Some other guns, they haven't done 553 300 blackouts or 553Rs and 760x39, but they will eventually. Dave said after this is all said and done, later on this year, he's going to work with them to do some kind of 550 PE90 gun. But that's to be determined, which means people always ask, I just wanted to put it out there, will more 550s be coming? Yes, in theory, but nothing is imminent in coming in. Nothing has been paid for, nothing's been configured, nothing's been approved on a Form 6 through the federal government. So at this point, it's a hope and a dream. Hopefully, maybe by November or December, if all goes well, we'll see some type of 20 some odd inch gun coming in again. But what it'll look like, what it'll be priced at, and frankly, if the government will even let it come in, to be determined. So that's my latest Swiss news. That's actually why I'm doing it here, separate from outdoors. I recorded that a couple of days ago. I'm giving you this info that I got this morning, so I wanted to put the most up-to-date info in this video that I was able. But with that, let's go back and wrap the shooting day and the yard day up. We're running out of time. We want to have dinner, but I figured I'd put one more mag through it. Yeah, the one thing about the trigger, you don't have to let all the way off. There's a little bit of this room. I think you can still get some rounds through.
It does feel a little weird though when you're going quick with it.
It's different, but then again, I've shot these so much that I'm sure when I first did years ago, it did, but after a while, you just kind of get used to it. One thing I've always liked about the triggers, I do like the large shoe. It absolutely is smooth. It doesn't dig into your finger.
Oh no.
It's a very comfortable. Plus, you know, you get the winter glove trigger guard. So, huzzah! Just a good little gun.
I like it.
So yeah, new Swiss guns coming in, but we'll talk about that elsewhere. Because, like I said, we're running out of daylight and we're hungry for dinner. Alrighty, back here to kind of round things out. When we were out shooting, we had a little bit of a late start that day, so we were on limited time with this gun. I think we'll definitely be taking it out again. I don't mind shooting my 5.52. We did that last year with Fox, but that gun's kind of crossed over into collectability. Plus, if it ever were to damage or break apart, good luck replacing it. But as I said a minute ago, nice thing about the 5.53, more or less standard parts, certainly an in-production gun. The SB here is kind of like we use the Mark 18, often used with the Surefire suppressor over there too. The 5.53 LB, the longer barrel version with about a 13.7 inch barrel, it's used analogous to like our M4 carbine. It's often carried by officers or NCOs, you know, squad leaders. Whereas the average guy, the volunteer, conscript, whatever, he still has to lug around a 5.50, a STG W90 with a 21 inch barrel. I don't think they're too heavy, but yeah, this is a lot lighter, even with the Stampy receiver. Now, it's not a super light gun, as Jero and I were talking about out the range. It's not tiny, it's not super light, but it's not super heavy either. And that's nice because it doesn't have crazy recoil. And it's nice that it has an adjustable gas. And Switzerland really puts effort into these gas ports. Not only do they have different regulators for different barrel lengths, an SB, an LB, a 5.50, 5.51, 5.53, they even have different sizes of the port for the twist rate, 1 in 10 versus 1 in 7. In the Swiss military, they use 1 in 10 because they have their own loading called GP90. It's a 63 grain round. The 1 in 7, of course, is for export, and it's intended for 62 grain NATO. Now, it might sound kind of odd to you that a 63 grain has a slower twist rate than a 62 grain with the 1 in 7, but that's just how they designed it. And the reason they did that, Switzerland is nominally neutral, especially when the gun was originally made in the 80s. So they didn't want to be seen as directly adopting SS109, M193, or M885, even though in fact that's what it is. They call it 5.6 too, instead of 5.56. But yeah, you can shoot US ammo in the 1 in 10 twist. In fact, I think it's kind of better for the longer 21 inch guns. Short gun like this though, they do them in 1 in 10 for the Swiss military, but for export, they're almost always in 1 in 7. It was kind of funny. This gun started coming in not with JDI. They weren't even really a company. But around 2012, 2013, Colorado Gun Sales was the first to ever import the 5.53. And they brought over the SB. with either welded diopter sights or a Picatinny rail. Back then, all we wanted were 551s, 550s, or at least 553 LBs, but we had to wait until JDI came along in 2016 to start getting those. And as I was kind of mentioning earlier, Switzerland is a small enough factory that they can't build everything at once. So they kind of set up the production line to make this gun. They'll do a run of it. Then they'll set it up to make that gun and do a run of that. That's why you'll get 550s all over the market for a minute. And then 551s and 553s, 751s, whatever. So Swiss guns, you're never going to see all models in stock at the same time, not unless something crazy happens. But if you want one, you need to jump on them when the model you want does come around. Now, I admit, you shouldn't buy something that's not really what you want, because these are not cheap. But be prepared if you are looking for a 553 SB when the next batch comes in, which should be later on this spring, jump on them. On the other hand, I've had people want one gun, settle for another, and realize they kind of like it, so you never know. But it's a really fun gun, at least as long as you don't do a boneheaded thing like me and forget to have your regulator in the right position. I do think these iron sights are neat. I picked these up back when they were reasonably affordable. JRO seemed to have no problem shooting them. They're pretty standard military sights. Yeah, this is one of those guns where on paper you might go, what's the big deal? But the proof is in how well they shoot. Yeah, just picking one up, they feel nicely machined. But you mess with the trigger, it's not fantastic. You look at the features, it's not fully ambidextrous. But when you go to shoot them, they just feel right. And it's one of those guns that can be and is both collectible and shootable. I think it's a crying shame of people that own these and never shoot them. On the other hand, I won't pretend like this is going to be your daily 3-gunner. You're going to buy one of these hoping that it appreciates in value. And it should, because import numbers are very low. Each batch is anywhere from like 10 guns to 50. The biggest one we've ever had were those 551s, and that's just because the barrels were available. But typically, yeah, 10 to 50 is the batch size, and when they're gone, that exact configuration may never be offered again. It seems like every time a version comes back, something's slightly different. Maybe different coloration to the metal, different furniture, different sights, different twist weight to the barrel. You know, different things. But let me know what you think. These have definitely been available for quite a while now, coming up on 8 years thanks to JDI. Dave's done a great service to the Swiss community, because it was a dream years ago to see any of these, and to have the variation that we do is just great. And he goes through a lot to get these in, and every year it's more of a headache with the government here, with the government there, with the SIG factory, with the transport companies. It's a headache, like any job. So yeah, that's why I like to try to, it's something that I really do like and enjoy. But let me know what you think about them in the comments below. And when the new versions come in, I'm sure we'll do videos on those too. And I'm sure we'll get this back out and let JRO shoot it some more. But with that, like I said, if you could, like, share, subscribe, like to help support us so we can get out more, because ammo be expensive, check out the Patreon. This is Misha, and we'll catch you very soon next time.